am so excited to welcome Allie Shante. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Okay, Allie Shante, who I finished the first book in her trilogy. It's called Living Legend, and oh my gosh, you guys have to read this. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about your writing journey?
So my writing journey's been going on for like quite a long time. It's like the finishing of writing journey that's been like taking a minute, but I've been writing since I was about 12 or 13, different genres, just trying to figure out like where I stick. And then all of a sudden kind of just fantasy romance happened, and I guess I like it, so I'm gonna continue doing that.
Nice. So Living Legend, I used to watch this show called Lucifer, and I got very Mazikeen vibes
Yeah.
from your main character, Danny. And tell me a little bit about where the inspiration for this trilogy came from.
So with Living Legend, I think it was for me, I didn't really even know it was going to be a trilogy when I first kind of thought it up in my head. It was really going to be just the one book and maybe even like a duet with the way I wanted to end it. But I think for me, I knew I wanted like an FMC that kind of like took no crap from anybody and wasn't willing to like to change for anybody, regardless of like how green flag and swoon worthy I made like the MMC at times. And I think that like subconsciously, like me and my husband would watch Lucifer all the time. We were big Supernatural fans. We were watching like Good Omens and all these things at the time. So I don't know how I guess somehow that kind of infiltrated in there because originally that was not my marketing plan. Was never like Lucifer wasn't any of that. And then everybody kept telling me they kept getting that from it, and I was like, well, maybe that did somehow like project into the writing. I think for Danny, the way that I did the book was I was like, well, this has to be a third book. It just like the way that I wrote the second, and then I wanted the story to roll out was that I never really wanted her to ever change throughout the book unless it was because she felt that she wanted to, not because Nick wanted her to or Lilith wanted her to or anybody else in the book. It was just that like something had happened and she was like, okay, maybe this needs a little molding, but that doesn't mean that the personalities are going to change.
Right. Um, so a very brief, high level of Living Legend. Danny, when we meet Danny, she is a demon, and she works for Lilith. And Nicholas, is an angel.
Yes.
And I totally loved their dynamic. They are so great. And Nicholas is just he's very sweet. I mean, he has definitely that dark streak, but he's the golden, retriever
Yeah.
in this relationship, and she is very badass. And like I said, I watched Lucifer. That was my thing. We also watched Supernatural, and I totally like get that as well. Um, but there's a character in Lucifer called Mazikeen who's kind of, the enforcer and in that universe, and I totally got vibes for Danny from that. And there are really cool secondary characters. There are some characters, I'm not going to spoil anything because you guys need to read this book. You need to like trust me on this. There are three books and then a novella as well, right?
Yes, as a like kind of like a Christmas novella. I never say that it's required because it's not at all. You don't need it to read the three books ever. You can completely skip it. It's only on KU, and I only bring it physically to events. But it's kind of like a Christmas prequel. So if anybody didn't really need any like plot for the books, but they wanted to kind of know more about like the characters centrally and like their banter with each other separately, as in like just Nick and Reese and just Elise and Danny before Living Legend ever really happens, then I say, hey, go for it. But if not, then you can just go straight into Living Legend and feel comfortable.
Um, yeah, this is a very sort of expansive world that you have built. What is the process for your world building? I mean, clearly there are,
Yeah.
there's hell and there's Heaven's Gate, and there's, you know, familiar concepts, but there is an entire universe inside those that you fill out.
No,
So how does that come to be?
that's funny because I always tell people world building is not it's not my strong suit, even though people like love it and they think it's so easily done. And I'm like, it's not. Like I don't like it as much as I like dialogue. Like I love writing their banter and their conversations and fleshing out characters through that. Settings, it's for me, it's like if I can be in one place and never be there again and only have to write it one time, I will be the happiest author. But like I had to flesh out Heaven's Gate, I had to flesh out Purgatory, like I had to flesh out Oculus and all these other places. And it's just kind of like I was like, what's the best way to say this so that like I will remember it? Because my brain is like the size of a mustard seed, and if I don't write something down, which I normally don't, unless it's going in the book already. It just doesn't happen. But I think that once I got there, it was kind of easy to understand that Purgatory and Heaven's Gate were two very different places. Heaven's Gate was just kind of like, oh, you're in kind of like this very sunny. It occasionally has, seasons, but it's mainly usually grass and trees and like flowers and stuff. And then Purgatory is like the opposite. So I was like, okay, I can do that. And I think for me, it's like I story build in the moment. I don't story build outside of it.
Okay.
So like once they're in Heaven's Gate, like when Danny gets there and she like sees everything, I'm seeing everything. Like I have never seen anything before. And I'm like, well, this is what I assume this would look like. And then when I go back and reread it, I'm like, okay, that makes sense for the rest of the story now. I didn't just decide to make the flowers purple instead of pink from 30 pages ago.
Right. Um, Yeah, I really enjoyed the first one. There's some amazing spice. There's great banter. I love both Danny and Nick and their friends and sidekicks and all of that. What is next for you?
So after this book comes out, I have a Why Choose duet that's going to be releasing this year, and I hope that both of them will be releasing this year. I at least know the first one is. So that one we're going to stick with like the paranormal romance world, but it's going to be away from Living Legend and it's going to be its own thing. And then we'll go back to Living Legend to get started on Elise's book in 2026.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I like Elise. Elise is pretty badass, and all the time she flips someone off, I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah,
like you.
At least is a fan favorite, and I mean, I love her, but I think I worked customer service for so long that I'm just like, I need a character that embodies like everything I've ever wanted to say.
Right? Yeah.
So, like, she pretty much is. Her book will be very fun. It'll be very much like a breather since I won't have to really think about people's feelings a lot and like how to like be a good human being where she's just like I don't care, like your feelings are kind of the secondary to everything else that's going on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Who are your inspirations when it comes to writing? Who do you feel that you learn from when you read their work?
So I really liked the first like kind of indie author for I guess like PNR kind of like paranormal fantasy was like Nikki St. Crow, who had like the Never King and the Lost Boys series. So like those are very short. My writing is not, but I think I got kind of like a sense of like bantery dialogue between people that like don't want to be together, but like they have a thing. I don't know if you've read the Lost Boys series for her, but
I have.
it's
I've read the first one, the Never King, right?
yeah, so it's like the Winnie and Vane kind of like I don't want to like you, but not as bully, not as mean, but like it's very much that push and pull. Like there's something going on, so just like shut up and make out. Like it's just a thing, just happen. So I definitely liked that for her writing. And I think overall, I think when it just comes to like for me, like I really liked like Sierra Simone Center and I really like QB Tyler's writing. And I like looking at romance from all aspects, whether it's like taboo or, just, regular, like regular formulated like contemporary romances. Like I kind of looking at it like that and looking at how the dialogue goes between romance, because at the end of the day, like Living Legend is like a fantasy, but it's also like the romance plot is very heavy in there. So I kind of need to make sure that I'm not losing that while trying to create this very overarching plot at the same time. So I do read a lot of like romance and taboo and things like that, just to also because I love it and it gets my mind off of writing fantasy, but it's also a way for me to look at like romance outside of like a giant plot.
Okay. Um, what would be your advice to a brand new author or someone who is trying to get published?
I definitely say find a support system that is there for you, but also know that not everybody is there for you. People know, or people can smell it when you're very new and where you just like want to be accepted and you just want this to happen and you're willing to like spend this money and you don't want to ask questions because you're freaking out or you have this deadline. It's just take a minute, take a breath, especially with the debut. It's okay to be like, hey, this book isn't coming out here. It's coming out here because this happened and I'm a human and I need to move it because I need to make sure that X, Y, and Z is done. Um, so I just definitely think that make sure that you have people in your corner who have done it before, but are also just there to be cheerleaders. Like having that good balance between experienced people that won't belittle you because you don't know as much, but then also have people that probably don't know anything, but they're just there to tell you that you're great is a good balance. And I think that after a minute, if you don't already have it, you'll find it because the author community is probably like a super fantastic place once you officially 100% learn that it's not a competition, which is probably numero uno priority thing to learn because it's not fun to be jealous but also be starting out and then not be nice to the people that you do giveaways with or you end up sitting next to at signing events, and it can be very awkward if you
Oh
don't watch
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, well, thank you, Allie, for joining me for a few minutes. Thank you for your time. Um, the Living Legend trilogy and the novella are available. Since we're taping this when the last one hasn't been published yet, but by the time you see this, it will all be available. Go read it. Danny and Nick are amazing. I just finished the first one and I am like headed straight into the second one because I just received Onyx Storm,
Mm.
but I'm not gonna read it because I want to read the next one. I'm not kidding you. Yeah, this is a wonderful world that Allie has built. So thank you so much, Allie. We really appreciate you being here, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Of course.